Good morning and welcome to the 16th Regulators and Policymakers retreat being organized by API here at Goa. And with me is Mr. Pashupathy Gopalan of SunEdison. He heads the Sun India's operations in India and Africa as well. Is that right, Pashupathy? Asian Africa. So welcome to the retreat, Pashu.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
Great, Pashu. Tell me, you've been part of the retreat even earlier, right? How's been the experience so far?
I think this is one of the unique sort of forums to meet so many regulators and decision makers for energy in India. So it's an amazing place to really share thoughts and also meet so many of them all over India and sometimes also from several other countries all at once. So from that perspective, I think it's something very special about this retreat.
We'd like to know, given the fact that SunEdison has done so well in North America, you've got operations across so many countries, what are the unique challenges that you face in India?
Honestly, I think India has been an amazing country for us. So there are challenges in every market. So it's very hard to say that India is difficult or too challenging. Some of the problems we face is land processes are always sort of somewhat unpredictable and take longer than what we would want. The consistency of policy is something that I've always asked for. It'll be good to know that there is visibility for the next 3-4 years on how the policy is going to shape up, as opposed to sort of being always uncertain about what's going to come up in the next 3 months or 6 months all the time. So I think those are some of the issues. But honestly, it's been an amazing market, and we find it one of our most interesting markets globally, which is why we've committed to the Honorable Prime Minister that we will execute 15.2 gigawatts in the re-energy last year.
Great. You've executed already so many projects. Some of them are pretty innovative. You've executed projects atop canals, right? So when there's no land available, you go to the canal and you set up a project over there. So that's very interesting for our viewers and our consumers. We'd like to know, what is it that has been the pattern of setting up solar power projects in the last, say, 7-8 years? Not that you were here 7-8 years before, but in terms of the Jawaharlal Nehru mission, in terms of the recent changes and tweaks that have been made?
So I think there's been tremendous evolution in India in the last 5 years. Obviously, in 2009 and 10, when JNNSM was getting defined and actually rolled out, even half a megawatt or a megawatt projects were very, very interesting. We've done several of them. We built the first utility scale project in Gujarat, essentially launching their program in PDPU in Gandhinagar. We built the innovative project of Narmada Canal. Just today, actually, what is interesting is the Prime Minister tomorrow is going to inaugurate in the Faridabad line 8 stations that we've where we have set up solar power plants, and we sell electricity to DMRC. These are our projects, our assets, where we sell electricity. And we see that really, I think, the economics of solar have become so attractive. I don't think any other technology can be rolled out so fast. Pricing is coming down and is expected to come down some more. And I think we're going to, in my view, I think we're going to see several gigawatts of solar being implemented in India. And the scale has dramatically improved. So that's been the biggest evolution, I would say. Economics has become very favorable. Scale has become significant. And people are now, everywhere this is being discussed. In the financial sector, everybody is, I think, open to invest and put their capital to work.
Capital costs were always a cause for concern, were always a cause of concern for investors earlier. What has been the effect now in the last 3-4 years?
See, when we started building our plants in India in 2010, the capital cost at that time used to be somewhere in the 17, 18, 20 crores per megawatt. Today, a megawatt of solar plant, fixed tilt, crystalline plants cost probably about 5.5 crores. So it has come down by about 60-70% in the last 5 years. So I don't think any other power generation technology can even come close to how much cost reduction that has happened in solar. As a result, I think it'll be a missed opportunity if we don't make the best of it and really scale up solar significantly in the country.
There is talk of grid parity. Have you really achieved grid parity, which means you're as cheap as the other sources of electricity, for example, thermal power?
We are. Obviously, the accounting systems all have to be sort of comparing apples to apples, which is always very difficult. You know, if you don't give concessional coal, obviously the coal prices are a bit depressed now, but you still are left with the risk of what the coal prices will be in the future, especially if you allow for pass-throughs and all that, right? I think today you should do the accounting, but I think we are at parity if you properly did the accounting and the concessions you give for thermal power. But it's not that renewables don't have their share of problems. I think you have to address the problems. Obviously, grid operations become more difficult when you're pumping in infirm power. So, but the thing is, instead of calling it a problem, which 3 years back cost was a problem and everybody used to point out, now the cost has come down. So people shouldn't look for new issues they are all problems that have to be solved, and we have to monetize the opportunity of rapidly scaling up solar in the country.
What is the most cost-effective way of balancing infirm power?
I think in my view, the mix is, while there is a lot of effort in storage, and we probably are one of the world's largest storage utility, if you think about it. We're starting to do projects which are 50 megawatts and more. So storage is a very, very important phenomenon that can help a lot. But I think from an economics perspective, the first and foremost is arriving at the appropriate mix of fuel resources and firm and infirm power to see, given that mix, what you can do. The second would be to make our grids smarter so that there is better understanding of, there is better data integrity, and the data is used to figure out how to manage the grid. So adding the necessary intelligence and electronics to the grid is far, far less, I think, from a capital cost perspective, far less than storage. And then you also have storage. So I would say it's a combination of integrating electronics and smartness, asking the renewable provider and the infirm provider to schedule and forecast their power, and of course storage. But I think all of this can be managed, and there are evidences in country like Germany and other parts of the world like California, where nearly 50% of countries' electricity in certain months comes from solar. So the question is, if Germany can do 50%, why can't we even do 10% from an energy perspective? So I don't think it's impossible, but I think the right steps have to be taken to make it happen.
Finally, what are the requests or what are the considerations you'd like to put forward for regulators and policymakers to ensure that we have a stable regulatory and policy regime and that we incentivize solar power?
See, I think solar, in my view, humanity has a chance today to be 100% electrified. It was never there before. More people live in darkness today than when electricity was invented. When Thomas Alva Edison, through Edison Electric, set up the first electric plants, probably less people were unelectrified than they are today. So it is a shame on humanity not to serve it. But the solution, technologically as well as economically, solar combined with storage can deliver electricity to the 400 million Indians that don't have power today, live in darkness and abject poverty. That can be fixed by allowing for distributed utility. The government should do whatever it takes on a war footing and create the framework for allowing private concessionaires to come in and take responsibility for 25 years, 30 years in particular geographies, maybe a block, maybe a district, maybe a group of villages. Give us the license to operate and deliver power and services, energy services to certain parts of this 400 million. And I think the private sector will rise up to and do it. In our view, there is $50 to $100 billion of value creation that is possible in delivering electricity to the 400 million people, if only you just substituted what they're spending for kerosene today. So this would be my number one request.
So Mr. Gopalan, thank you so much. And we hope you have another wonderful innings at the retreat. I understand you're going to speak shortly.